Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Lefebvre, and today we're going to be talking about a very important skill as well as a technique in watercolor painting, especially for beginners, and that is working in different color values, the lightness or the darkness of a color. And to do this, we are going to be doing a really simple monochrome floral painting. This is a great drill to practice, especially for beginners. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay friends, today we are going to be doing another video of how to fill up your sketchbook, and today I wanted to do a really important lesson on value. I've done a couple of these in the past, but if you're new here, welcome. One of the most important skills you can have as a watercolor artist is working on color values, and what that is the lightness or a darkness of color. Because in watercolor we lighten our hues with water and not white, it's really important to work on your water control of using the appropriate amount of water to get a really light value, as well as using more paint to get a dark value. So doing a value study or just practice paintings using different values using only one color is a really great and important exercise. And for today's video, I wanted to use one of the most beautiful colors in my palette, which is also a very rare color. It is from the Michael Harding line, and it's called Lapis Lazuli, or I don't hope I'm saying that right. And it's the color down here, and it's actually a natural pigment. It comes from the Lapis Lazuli stone. And I think this one is from Afghanistan, and they've ground it up and made it into a gorgeous pigment for the watercolor line from Michael Harding. So we're going to be using this today, and just to show you kind of what the color is, this is it. I was just playing around doing some patterns, but it is such a gorgeous like dusty blue that I thought it'd be really fun to do some monochrome flowers with it today. So I am painting in my Etchr Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook that we've been working on. I have a size 8 round here. I think I'm also going to grab some of my other fun brushes, like my 1/2 inch flat brush and whatever else I decide to pick up. Okay, so when you are working with a value scale or different values in a painting, the way to think about it is the more water you use with a color, the lighter the value is going to be, and the more paint you use than water, the darker the value is going to be. So I always like to just, when I'm doing a value scale with an absolute beginner, I like to go from dark to light. And so what I do is I wet my brush really nice. I add a little puddle of water into the pigment that I'm using, and I swipe it a lot. So then you can get this nice dark value. Now this color doesn't run that dark as it is. It is a little bit hard to activate, I guess just because of the pigment, but we're gonna try and go with it. So that's our darkest value. Now to get a lighter value, we need to add more water. Now the way I like to do this is to just swipe my brush in the water, run it against the side, and it takes off some of the pigment, and you get a lighter value. Again, even lighter. Again, even lighter. Okay, just until you get the lightest value possible and you get this beautiful value scale. Now, you're not going to be doing this necessarily in your painting by creating a really dark value and then washing off the paint. So what you can do is take your color, put it in a mixing well in your palette like this. Okay, and if you want to start off with a dark value, you definitely can. But what I like to do, I'll wash off my brush completely. Now, a big trick with water control, because a big issue with beginners especially, is you will find you might have too much water on your brush. What I like to do always before I pick up pigment is I will dab my brush on my paper towel to take off some of that excess water. Then I will go in, depending on how much of that color I want, and I'll pick up the pigment with my damp brush. It's not soaking wet, there's no drips coming off of it. So if I want a really light value, I might just touch the little edge here, just picking up the tiniest amount, and I get a light value. Okay? If I want to pick up more, I'll go back in, pick up more. Okay? So you can play around like that. When you're working in watercolor, it's always best to work light to dark as it is. So you want to create that light value. Now you can add a bunch of water to your pigment right here and water it down so it's very, very light. Okay, the only issue with this is that you might run into the problem where you end up picking up too much water on your brush, and then you get all of these kind of blooms and water pools and marks and stuff on your paper. So always, when in doubt, just tap your brush on your paper towel to take off some of that extra water, and you should be good to go. And I'll show you also how to remove water from your paper. But for now, I'm going to start by just making a loose floral monochrome painting using different values with our Lapis Lazuli color, because I just want to showcase this color today. It is absolutely gorgeous. All right, so we already have a light value here, and I'm using my flat brush, and I'm just going to start. See how light that is? It's so pretty though. It has like this tint of like purple to it almost. And I'm just going to create these petals going around, maybe a flat petal on this side. Okay, and with our painting here, you might notice, see how it's a little bit darker here? It's actually because the water is pooling a bit. So if you experience that, when it dries, it might create a little bit of a harsh line. So in order to pick up that pool of water, dab your brush on your paper towel, and then you can just pick it up like that and just move it around so it's all even. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to go back into the paint to get a darker value, and I like to add some darker value in there. Now I didn't dab my brush in the water, I just went straight into the paint because I don't want to pick up more water, because if I add more water to this, it's gonna, you know, create some pools and puddles and all that. Also, this paint is very what's it called, granulating. So if you don't know what granulation is, I have a video on it as well. But basically the pigment is a bit larger, rougher, so it separates, if that makes sense. It has a texture to it, which is also really cool for these paintings. So if it looks a little bit more textured, that's why. So I'm just adding in a little bit of a darker value to some of this just to get different values in our painting. Okay, now let's go for a darker value flower, because it's good to switch it up. So I'm going to do the same kind of flower, and I swiped my brush in there a lot so we get this nice dark value. Now you could always do this with like a landscape painting as well. That's a really great way to practice. Let's do like a medium. Actually, let's do one down here. So I'm going to go medium value a bit. Okay, so I had a bit more paint on my brush than we did here, but not as much as here. But yeah, so if you want to try this value study, it's always great to do it with a landscape as well, so you can practice using that, and it just gets you used to water control, using different amount of paint, different amount of water, and it's incredible skill to have when painting with watercolor. I'm switching to my other brush. All right, I'm going to grab a bit more of this darker pigment, just tap it in there a little bit around the edges, not too much. So if you see me dabbing my paintbrush on my paper towel, that's to take off some of that excess water. Okay. Let's get some leaves in there. So I didn't really plan where I was going with this. So I like to do light leaves and then have like a dark stem. And just switch it up, have some darker ones, lighter ones. And if you're the type of person that likes to take notes too, that's always a great idea of like water ratios and all that. Whatever you feel will help you be the most successful, do it. Okay? I am the type of person that just likes to play and experience, and I get a question a lot of people saying, how do you know how much water to have on your brush? And it's hard to explain because it's just a feeling you get. And once you do this, oops, see, there's too much water on there. It dripped. Once you do this over and over and over again, you just start to get the feeling and you know how much water is on your brush. You can tell by just like feeling the brush, just the minute you touch your brush down to the paper. Like I can see there's a little bit of a pool right here. If I wanted to take that up, I just dry my brush off, soak it up like that. And one way that I see a lot of people struggle with water control and those pools happening is when they go back in, like I'm doing now, to add some darker values into the wet on wet. When you have a wet surface and you go in with wet paint. So just make sure when you're doing that, you're not picking up a lot of water on your brush. You're just going right into the pigment. Dab your paintbrush on your paper towel just to take off some of that excess paint and water, and you should be good to go. Okay, it's all about practice and just getting the feeling of it. Once I started, I definitely did not know what I was doing. Like most of us don't as beginner watercolor artists. So give yourself a little bit of grace. It's not going to happen the first time or even the second time or even the third. It's going to take a long time. And there's still times where I have too much water on my brush. I just know how to fix it now, which is the kind of stuff that I like to try and share with you guys. So like I said, if you have too much water, just dry off your brush on your paper towel and mop it up with your brush. I'm going to try and go and do some really light ones here. So I washed a lot of that pigment off. I don't even know what kind of curves and stuff I'm doing here. I'm going to do another little flower here. But it's all about playing and experimenting. I feel like that is the best way to learn. You can watch all the YouTube videos in the world and you'll get a bunch of insight, but the only way you're going to really succeed with watercolor and painting is by doing and practicing. So you got to be practicing lots. And I remember when I first started, I practiced all the time, like daily. Not because I was like, I need to get better, but it was because I loved it. So make sure it's something that you enjoy or it's not going to be as fun. I will say, you know, it takes a while, it takes discipline. But if you love it and you find yourself, you know, just wanting to paint, you will get there. So just hang in there and just keep going. Okay. A little bit more. And we're going to do a little bit more on top. I'm going to show you an up close of some of this granulation too in a minute, because this is so pretty. And just like you can create such a beautiful painting with these patterns. But see, and I think I mentioned in a previous video when we studied color value, which I'm going to show you at the end, there's a trick to see if you have enough range in your color value. I just had to remind myself. Okay, let me keep going. I don't know what this composition is right now. I'm kind of all over the place. That's okay. I'm also running out of this color. I'm going to have to load my palette again. But value is such a huge part of watercolor and in painting in general, just because it makes everything look more interesting. Okay, if you have a flat painting where you're only using one value, you're going to miss out on so much depth and just interest to your viewer's eye. Okay, so all right, and I think I just want to add a little bit more in here. Just leaves. Okay, I think that's good. Before I let it dry and we do another little layer, I just want to show you some of the granulation. I hope you can see. See this one especially. See the separation in the color. It's so beautiful, and this color is just absolutely stunning. Okay, so let's let this dry, and then we'll add another layer of just some detail on top. Okay, now that it's dry, I'm going to add some more detail. So I'm going to try and get lots of pigment on my brush here, because I want to add some darker bits to the center here. Okay, get our darkest value. Like that. And see how using the darkest value possible really kind of brings together this piece. Gives you some beautiful detail. Like that. So in there, and then I might do just some detailed lines over top. A little bit of shadows. That. Just a little bit of darkness. You can even add some veins to some of these leaves if you like. Or just shadows at the base. Like that. And there you go. Honestly, that's about it. But like, look how beautiful and calming that piece is. Just by working with different values, you can really add a lot of depth within your paintings. And if you want to make anything darker, you can always add extra, what's it called? Layers and all that. So now I'm going to show you my quick little trick to check the values in your paintings. So to see if you have enough range of values. So you're going to take your phone and you're going to take a picture. The lighting is awful. Let me take a picture quickly with better lighting. Okay, so now I have the picture on my phone. I'm going to go down to edit. I have an iPhone, by the way. Edit. And I am going to go to saturation like this, and I'm going to bring it all the way down to make it white and black. And you want to make sure that you can see enough difference in your painting. You want to see you have enough darkness and enough lightness, and that will really tell. With this, obviously, we did monochrome painting, so I mean, this is just a blue version of this, but if you had another painting, I'll show you in a second, this is a great way to see if you have enough variety of value in your painting. So let's try with a different painting. Okay, so I have this painting of a wreath here. I'm going to try it with this. So I'm going to go to saturation, and I'm going to bring it all the way down so it's black and white. Now, you can tell that just by looking at it, there's enough variety in value. You can see the light values of the egg, and then in parts in the tulips, and then there's some really dark foliage. Some of those longer leafy greens from the tulips are that medium value, but you have a great range of value in your painting, and that can help you decide if it needs a little bit more or less or what. So that's a little trick that you can use, and I hope that's helpful. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's painting with this stunning color from Michael Harding, and that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day. Bye.